Okay, this episode was hard. Let's jump into it. Hey, everybody. So, welcome back to Lazy Brown Productions. It's your boy, D. Wesley. So, today I will be going over episode 4 of WildCats. But yeah, I'll be going over that. I gotta say, it was a bit hard because a couple of times I really wanted to say, I had to say, it's like, yo, shut up, woman. Because, oh my God, that was so. Anyway, I'll just go ahead and jump on in. So, we start the episode off with Jacob just giving his inner monologue about how the Demonites are up to something. And he sent off 2 of his people to go stop them. So the 2 people were Zealot and Voodoo. Voodoo automatically spots that they're Demonites because she's got that ability to see Demonites when they're possessed people. So they start the fighting, and pretty much Voodoo messes up a couple of times during the fight. And when she messes up, Zealot pretty much gets angry at her for messing up. So she pretty much yells at her, she pretty much tells her, I would have been better off if you had just stayed home and I did this by myself. And so with that triggered Voodoo into the whole episode doing this, crying. Because it went ahead and triggered she's got a PTSD of it, of being left behind and being in people's way. And look, I'm not against characters crying per se, but after a while, if I get a whole episode of crying, which this leads to, it literally just makes me say, oh my gosh. Honestly, I have to double check, but if this was out before X-Men, which I highly doubt, then I can see where she fits the bill for Jean Grey, where, you know, how they always, in the 90s, they portray Jean Grey as being, oh, no. She was that, this episode. Like, imagine a whole season of Jean Grey just always fainting and combining it all into one episode. So, yeah. So, the first tier wasn't too bad. But then it comes to find out that Damien's trying to figure out how can they have the WildCats to what looks like another version of the computer AI that the WildCats have, which it looked like maybe, if I was say, it looked like the dark version of the computer AI that the WildCats have. So then they shift back over to the WildCats, where they were trying to figure out what was going on. Zealous again was angry, saying that you need to learn how to defend yourself, because otherwise you're going to be in the way. That's when some of the casts, like Grifter, say, Zealot's got a point there, Voodoo. If you can't learn how to defend yourself and do what you need to do, she's gonna be left behind. And then she goes, fine, that's fine by me. I'm always left behind. So yeah, she went ahead and started crying. Maul comes in. I think he's going to be my favorite character. Maul comes in and it pretty much says she was left behind as a child. And as that, she now has trauma of being left behind because she was adopted or she was at an orphanage. And then that's when they apologize, minus Zealot. But they now understand why she felt that way. But at the same time, though, literally during the episode, it proves right of, yeah, you need to learn how to defend yourself. Matter of fact, it was pretty big thing that you learn how to defend yourself. Now, the wording could have been better, but at the end of the day, yeah, no, like, you really need to know how to defend yourself, because that was... Anyway, so she leaves, and Mal comes, gives her a flower, or he comes to check up on her. When he comes to check up on her, he's just seeing how she's doing, and she finds out that she found a note that says that her parents want to meet her. So Miles says, are you sure? And she goes like, yeah, this is the only chance I got to meet him. Miles says, well, I thought you said that they left you. I thought so too, but I've got to go see it. This note could be what I'm looking for to feel like pretty much where I truly belong, because she feels like she doesn't belong in the Wildcats. And it was a tidbit information of, at that moment, she didn't feel like she belonged with the Wildcats. She just felt like they flipped her life upside down, which is a pretty drastic measure, I understand, because they did. So eventually, she goes out, and when she leaves, they now get a thing where Jacob is stressing out. He puts all the stuff, and the AI comes up and says, "What you stressing about? Are you stressing about this? Or are you stressing about the fact of Voodoo left the compound without permission?" And he goes like, wait, what? And so then that's when the AI says, he says like, "Do you got anything else you want to tell me, you little jerk?" And the AI pretty much says, "Yes, actually. It seems that whatever it is, they might start targeting the president." So that's when he calls the Wildcats in. He briefs them on about how Dynamites are trying to attack the president. They need to get Voodoo back. They ask Maul, because Maul knows where she's going. And then from there, he says, "I can't tell you, sorry." And he tells the cyborg, "Look, I'm sorry, but I can't tell you that." So after they break it down, they go to stop the Dynamites from attacking the president. And when they go to try to stop them, they come to find out that it was pretty much a setup. Like, they come down, the Dynamites had kind of gotten in between them, and they started shooting. When they started shooting, then the president's people started shooting. So now it's a shootout. And eventually, the Wildcats had to dip on out. That's when a couple of servicemen had gotten possessed, which then another serviceman who's close to the president got possessed, and then the Dynamites ended up possessing the president. Because at the end of the day, they're all just trying to get to the satellite so they can get more control over it. Okay, so we shift back over into Voodoo. Voodoo now is going to go see her parents. When she goes to the building that they're supposed to be in, she goes up there, it's like, "What happens if they don't want me? What happens if they don't want to see me?" And the episode wasn't clear that she went in there and nobody was there, or she just didn't go in at all, because then she just went out crying. And I was just like, okay, here we go with the crying again. Okay. That's 3 times. Look, I get it, but at the same time, though, I'm sorry, it's just too much crying for me. At some point, sorry, a bunch of bugs. It's literally just way too much crying for me. Anyway, I digress. I'm like, whatever. So she bumps into Maul. Actually, no, before she bumps into Maul, some guys are trying to get her, and she can't do anything. And that's when I'm like, Zealot was right. Literally, you need to learn how to defend yourself. You have average humans right here, and they're about to take you, and you don't know what to do. And you've literally... Actually, now that I think about it, I need to go back, because what have you been doing this whole god dang time that you've been with the Wildcats? And they've been in these fights. You should at least know how to fucking fight. Anyway, Maul says, like, "Hey, back away from her." Grabs her and throws them. So then the episode goes to them of trying to figure out what the Dynamites are doing. From there, they figure out that there was a setup. And now they find out that, well, at least Jacob, we find out that apparently he has connections to the president, and he's going off to a site. The president's going off to, some type of site where the Wildcats now have to go out, stop him from going to that site, because they believe that the president has gotten possessed. And they figure out that the president has gotten possessed because the president went on saying that I was attacked by the WildCats. Rawr. And they're like, well, how would they know who exactly we are when we never, during the fight or during the scuffle, we don't know what's going on? After that, we then get where the WildCats are now heading off to the Black Ops site, when they head off to the Black Ops site, that's when they reach out to Maul and said, we need Voodoo. Maul says, well, hey, I'm not with her right now, but I know where I could go get her. Because earlier, a detective or a private agent had went ahead and said, I know where your parents are at. He took Voodoo with him. After he took Voodoo with him, they separated, and Voodoo says, like, Maul, don't you come with me, because I can defend myself. I don't need your help. She didn't say that at all, guys. It's just one of those things where it's irking me. It's like, lady, look, you need to bring him with you, because clearly you don't know how to handle yourself. So, fast forward, Maul goes to try to get Voodoo. He does some digging online and finds out some important information. And he goes to the private agent, finds out the private agent is actually working for the Dynamites. Now Maul goes, try to see if he can find Voodoo. Voodoo has been a shocker. She was possessed. She became possessed because God forbid you to actually do what Zealot said, which is actually learn how to fight for situations like this when you were by yourself. Anyway, so then after that, they kind of find out that apparently she's had untapped potential that she hasn't even gotten into yet. Upon that untapped potential, she's apparently, well, Maul's not going hard on her, but Maul is trying to get research through saying like, hey, look, this isn't the Voodoo, this isn't my friend. She eventually is able to beat the possession and kick out the Dynamite, which the Dynamite says, this is impossible, but you can call me impossible. Cool catchphrase at the moment. But then after that, they go ahead, and I just remembered I did not use my headsets at all. Wow, it's my bad, y'all. So at that point, they kind of find out that Maul and Voodoo go to, how about the WildCats? The WildCats are in a shootout trying to get to the president before he can get a hold of the satellites. So we find out this episode that they're actually looking for something that's really key to them winning the war. But go ahead, we find out that Voodoo and Maul comes in, helps them, beats them. They actually, I would say for humans, they probably put up a good fight against the WildCats, but I think they were going easy on them. So from there, they managed to stop everything. And after they managed to stop everything, we find out Maul looked up the information, which now that I think about it, if it was really freaking easy, why the hell Voodoo didn't do this? So Maul found out on the internet, through an old ass computer, that what happened to Voodoo's parents. They passed away, saving their child. And, she's sad and cries, but I have a new family, and that's when she learns that the WildCats are her new family. So, overall, episode wasn't horrible. It's just, I was like, oh my God, are you serious? We gotta go through this bullish of, whoa. It was a lot of crying. I'm sorry, look, I'm not against you wanting to show, people with trauma, but at the same time, they're like, dude, let's show back on the crying. I honestly, that's one thing I can say about today's shows. They do with trauma a little bit better, but at the same time, though, those episodes really aren't for me, because if you're gonna give me a whole episode going through trauma or going through something that the trauma that the character has gone through, I'm not against it, but how you portray it is very, very vital to me. I don't need a whole episode of constant crying. That's just me. Again, that's my own personal taste. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I want to go ahead and say I will catch y'all later, and please give me your thoughts, your process, and down below in the comments, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.